All right, dads, it's about to get real. Episode 7, all about temptation. Dad, you have to avoid temptations. Infidelity, drugs, gambling, pornography, and mismanaging the wealth we've been entrusted with. This stuff gets heavy. Temptations, it's always going to be out there. And this is a subject that really fascinates me because these things really consume some people. And to the point of destroying their lives, and some people just can't fight it. And I've spoken to alcoholics about that addiction, and it's really interesting to hear them describe the almost desperate need for the fix. And plenty of people can overcome and have overcome these addictions, and there are numerous groups dedicated to helping and supporting addicts. But step one, I think, and the real crux of this episode is, especially for a dad, and for a dad to teach his kids, is just to avoid these things altogether. Avoid the temptation. If you don't toe the line of temptation and addiction, you're less likely to screw up. Stay away and you're golden. You can't get addicted to drugs if you're never near them. So I want to know what starts an addiction and what drives it and how to fix it. It would be great to have that information like that, just to keep addiction from ever, taking root on our family in the future. And, personally, our family, I think, has been super lucky in the sense that I don't know anyone that's ever had a real serious addiction issue in our family. I think there's been a few people that have towed the line with alcoholism, but nothing that's really spoken of, or nothing that I ever think was a huge deal. And that's super great for our family, but obviously there's other families out there where that's a real thing in a family, where there's some serious addictions that exist there. And frankly, we all know someone who's an alcoholic, a gambling addict, or addicted to porn. And apparently even addiction to shopping is a real thing, which I had no clue, but apparently that's a real thing. It's a tough subject because many of these things are nothing illegal, and obviously drugs are, but the rest, it's easily accessible. It's widely acceptable. But there's a fine line that can be crossed between drinking socially and alcoholism, from gambling for fun to gambling with a problem. And porn, I feel like, is morally wrong with any volume, but surely there's people out there that make an argument that it's healthy in certain doses or whatever, versus an addict who can't go without it. Shopping like normal people versus shopping as an answer to some craving are two totally separate things. So, stay away from drugs. Don't gamble if you can't play it as a game. Don't put yourself in a situation where you are alone with another woman, or in a situation where you can create a relationship with another woman. Avoid triggers to these things. And honestly, each one of these, temptation and infidelity and drugs and gambling, pornography and mismanaging wealth, they can all be their own videos, and they probably will be sometime in the future, where we can dedicate a solid amount of time, or even just have little clips from those. You can really get in depth on them. But to summarize, number one, straight from my heart, stay away from porn. I've seen it, and man, it throws some serious chemicals into your brain. Let's get real here, guys. Once you've seen one pair of boobs, you're gonna want to see them all. But save that part of your life for your wife. Let her know, show her that she is enough for you. You don't need another woman to enhance or improve that very personal part of your life. Give her that. Gambling. I really don't have much of a problem with gambling if the gambling is purely as a game, as an entertainment vessel. It's super important to set a hard, firm budget and 100% stick to it. Under every circumstances, winning or losing, or everything starting to go in your favor, whatever it is. Whatever the amount you spend is simply a cost of admission, at least in my head it is. It's like going to a theme park. It's stupidly expensive, but you have fun. You have no care if you lose it all. When I go to a theme park, we spend $400 to get inside. It's gone. We're never getting that back. But we have fun. So, like going to a theme park, you have no care if you lose it all. If you win, great. But But if you lose every penny, then you had fun. You played some games, like an arcade, and went home happy. Anything else, I think it's dangerous. And my only problem with gambling is that it's the second fastest growing addiction in America, and it destroys so many families. If you can't set a firm budget, stick to it, and be 100% happy if you lose every penny, then gambling becomes a much riskier proposition. And I like winning, but I hate losing control more. And I'd rather lose on my terms than risk my future with an industry that's literally built to beat you. Drugs. But my boys, if I ever catch you doing drugs, I will beat the snot out of you till you're a flippin' pulp. And I realize that I'm in the minority here, and marijuana use is on the rise, and it's probably going to be legal everywhere soon. And I even have some close friends that love this stuff. I just have never done drugs, and frankly, I've never even had the desire. I've had plenty of opportunities because I went to school. It just doesn't look like a path to travel. I took the approach that pretty much every person in prison uses drugs. So it's a common trait for the slums, the lowlives, and the criminals. And I really didn't want to do what they were doing to get where they are. And so while there's some really good athletes that are users, and I'm sure there's some corporate executives that are users, it certainly appears more of an outlier in those circles, meaning there's more people not doing it than there are people that are doing it. So I wanted to go down a path that seemed like it produced a better life. So I'm staying away from it. And that's obviously all drugs. And, my boys better stay away from it. And I think a good dad that wants to be a role model should stay away from it. And most drugs are illegal unless they're prescribed to you. So possession and or use is breaking the law. And what are we teaching our kids here? You're just showing your kids that they should not obey the law and that you are above the law and that will have consequences. I'm a social drinker. I may drink at an event, occasionally at home with friends or my wife. I've never been a daily drinker. It just doesn't make me feel all that great, especially if I consume a bit too much at a party. The next day sucks for me and I end up going sober for the next 6 weeks just because I didn't like it. But I like the flavors of Scotch, bourbon, and whiskey, so feel free to send them to me. They'll totally get consumed. Vodka, rum, and tequila, frankly, they're only to be consumed in the event of a personal challenge. Beer is good. Most beer is good. And I don't care if you drink. I care if you can't stop drinking. I care if you become dependent on drinking. I care if you have to drink. Alcohol is a depressant, although it doesn't feel like it when you're consuming it. It is a drug. So I think we just got to be smart and not overdo it. It's 2019, so grab a ride share and don't drive a vehicle while using or after drinking. I can't even comment on shopping as an addiction. I literally never met anyone who's had the issue. I don't get it. I don't think it's a guy thing. I think it's more of a girl thing. Just like porn's more of a guy thing than a girl thing. I just don't understand it. I just know it exists. So with any addiction, people are probably bringing it up to you. So get help. And of course, the best way to avoid addiction is to stay away from it to begin with. I'd rather be called a square than see my life crumble to addiction. So avoiding temptation is the key here. Infidelity. If you cheat on your spouse, I'm going to think you're a scumbag. You're literally breaking one of the 10 freaking commandments. And I think most people are going to agree here. You cheat on your spouse, you're a dirtbag. So let's go ahead and lay that ground floor. Things are probably not going well for you in the rest of your life. I think I can pretty much guarantee that. So let's prevent this from ever becoming an issue by taking some very basic steps. Step number 1, don't put your wiener in anybody else except your wife. Done. Don't put yourselves in situations where a relationship's going to develop. You don't need to travel on the road with a woman that you would find attractive, or frankly any woman, because here's the other thing about that. I don't even want to put myself in a position to where rumors could be started, right? So I don't want to take a car ride with a woman halfway across the country and then have, people saying, oh man, did you hear we went all the way across? Yeah, what do you think they did? And whether it's immature, whether it's, stupid, whatever. I don't want to put myself in a position to where even a rumor can get started about these things. And if you take that mentality, that's going to keep you from ever creating too personal of a relationship. So I think that's where a good dad really needs to stand firm on things like that. Don't put yourselves in a situation where you could get tempted. Hey, listen, comment below. I'm listening to those comments. This was obviously a heavier subject matter. I'd love to see some comments, what you want to hear more on, what you want to hear less on, if I'm any good at this, if I suck at it. Feel free to submit stories and thoughts to Townsend at townsendrussell.com. And of course, find us everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, podcast, and our website. I'm Townsend Russell with the Dad Group and 100% Dad. We're preaching over here for dads to step up, be real men, and real leaders of their homes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.